Hey, this is Zac.
And I'm Clint, and we wanted to thank Exo-terra for sponsoring this episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Exo-terra is the industry leader in glass terrarium enclosures, and we are a big fan of getting to see the species we work with both at home and at the university.
We utilize Exo-terra caging here at Metazotics, and in addition to top quality terrariums, Exo-terra offers an array of heating options, lighting, supplements, decor, and truthfully anything needed or wanted when keeping reptiles.
Thank you, Exo-terra, for supporting Colubrid and Colubroid Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. Zac here, as always, with Clint. It's been a technological cluster blank tonight, but we've got it going on. And I'm going to tell everybody that's going to be watching this on YouTube right now, I let the people use my computer at IHS, and they turned on the closed caption option or the translate. So like everything we say ends up on the bottom of the screen. And you know how good we are with technology. And I didn't give it to Max, who could have probably fixed this in less than half a second. But yeah, for those watching it on YouTube, everything I say is going to be at the bottom of the screen. So I'm telling you this now.
Just when the PowerPoint's up. So
just in the PowerPoint.
Right.
Yes. Because I see it over here and it's driving me insane. But anyway, other than that, though, lots of good things going on today. Lots of things to talk about. We've got Colubridfest updates. We have our sponsors have a pretty significant update for anybody that wants to use it. That's a listener. And then we have Phil Peak on, who's a herpetologist working in Kentucky. The Kentucky pine snakes. If you like Kentucky pine snakes, if you think they're badass snakes, which I certainly do. I've been following this story since 2001. I thought we need to put this into the books permanently. So Phil graciously agreed. So tonight's episode is everything pitch overs, everything Kentucky pine. You get the keeping side, the herping side. It's the whole caboodle. So that is kind of the intro there. But without further ado, because I haven't taken a breath in 1 minute and 49 seconds. How you doing, Clint?
Somebody's excited tonight. I'm doing great, man. I've had a good time lately. It's we had a great 4th of July weekend. I went to Holiday World, which is an amusement park and water park out here in Indiana, in Santa Claus Land, Indiana. Yeah, Santa Claus, Indiana. So if you've never heard of it, it's a real place. Look it up. Everything is freaking Christmas out there all the time. It's awesome. So I got to hang out with the family then, and then just this, what's today? Monday. So yeah, just yesterday, Sunday. Days run together. We've learned that. Just yesterday, got to go fishing with Dex, and while we didn't have a great fishing day, it was so hot. I literally had sweat dripping off the bill of my hat. I was just drenched, but took him down to a lake that my father used to take me to when I was a kid. It's been blocked off, so nobody can get down there really. No vehicles can get down there. So we had to tromp through the weeds. Weeds were as tall as me a lot of the time. But got down, we chased a water snake that we saw in, a little ditch, and outsmarted us. We didn't catch it. Don't know where it went. Kicked up a deer, did some fishing, and we only caught 2 things. Dex caught a turtle. Yeah. So he got to reel a turtle in, got that off the hook, no problems. And then this kid caught about a 3-pound channel cat on a lure.
A lure?
I just did not expect any of this to happen, but I mean, it was the biggest catfish he's ever caught. He was thrilled. It was the only fish he caught all day, but it made his day. And, we hiked back on out of there, and I took it home, filleted it up for him. So he's thrilled. He's going to share some of it with his Oregon red spotted garters too. He's looking forward to that. So, good things outside of work, obviously. And then here at the shop, hatchling season is freaking here, Zac. Oh my gosh. So I was just separating a clutch. I know I was separating clutch number 17, and there were 6 more below that. So we've had 23 clutches of ball pythons hatched so far. Jeez. And that's just the balls. And then with colubrids, now the colubrids are starting to explode. I think we were up to somewhere around 12 to 15 clutches of colubrids hatched before taking yesterday off. I come in this morning, there are 5 more that were already hatched, like 5 more clutches with 5 other clutches hatching. And I mean, so it's July is just boom, 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 left and right. So it's poor Corey. You can just see her face falling.
This is her first season, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And I keep coming around that corner carrying 5 stacks of tubs, and she's just like, oh, because this is definitely the that time of year. So, but it's all good stuff. I mean, and we're excited. We you never know what's going to pop out. So,
no, we got the same thing going on at school. First clutch of falsies hatched a couple weeks ago. Second, third clutches are due this week. Bull snakes are due this week.
Nice.
We have 1 clutch of Florida Kings is hatched. 4 are set to hatch this week. Corns are set to hatch this week. So we haven't had the big boom yet, but this week is the boom. Like
gotcha.
It's going. Eggs are dimpling. Everything looks like it's going to happen. So, I'm right there with you. And then, oh my God, false water cobras. Listen to me, everybody. Please think. If you're a batch breeder, a hobby breeder, a garage breeder, whatever you want to call, small batch breeder, please think before you tackle my favorite snake. And I know that I may have been part of the reason why everybody got the false water cobra, because I've kind of talked about them, written about them, presented on them, been their advocate. My biggest female dropped a clutch, and everybody was like, oh, wow, so many eggs. She laid 29 eggs, right? And she started swelling up, and I was like, oh, great, here we go, double clutch time. I didn't feed her extra. I didn't put the male in with her. I did everything I could to keep this from happening. It's not fun anymore. There's too much of a good thing is such a thing. She laid a clutch on Sunday, and my grad students, you met them, Bjorn and Mariah, they'll be at Colubridfest. They sent me a picture in our Discord holding a tub, and they were like, congrats, Dad. 36 eggs. 36 eggs. Woo. In a second clutch. That animal alone, I can't do the math right now. Let's do the math. Is that, that's over 60 eggs from one snake in 1 year.
Wow.
And as you've taught me with the market's not that great for false water cobras right now. So I'm going to say this again at the beginning of the second show in a row. You're a listener to this show, and you're interested in a false water cobra. A couple of you reached out. For the love of God, reach out. I can't give them away, but it will be a good price. That is all I have to say. I just want to make sure they go to good places. But I am swimming in them. Next year, I'm breeding 1 female. The only reason why I bred multiple females this year was we have a project, and that's when we breed them. And ironically, they're great for science projects because you need 30 for a good sample size. But holy mother of God, moving them. So these are all high yellow. They're going to be fantastic looking snakes. I'm thrilled about that. But I would have loved it if she would have laid like 20. 20 would have been great. Not 36 freaking eggs. And then I'm looking at the other females that went, just like doing everything in my power to will upon them not to lay more eggs, because we don't need any more false water cobras and associated. I got plenty. We're good. So that was the thing. And guess I have one other update that I want to tell everyone. So on the show, I can't remember if I said this in our little friend circle with Kayla, Roy, Kerwin, you, me, or if I said it on the show, but somebody asked me at some point, are there any snakes that you're considering getting, like that whole starting a project? And I, of course, picked a brown on brown with a brown belly snake.
No.
Just for you, man. It's called Helicops angulatus. It's the completely aquatic dipsatid from South America that's extremely common. They're found in like industrial ditches and watermelon fields and out in the Amazon. Like they're literally ubiquitous across the landscape. And I decided that I was going to, if they came up, I would get them. Well, they came up, and I found out they came up because Kayla sent me a link, and then Roy sent me a link, and then Kerwin sent, I was like, all right.
Notice who didn't send him a link to a brown snake.
Yes. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I purchased them, and so I've got 6 of them here. 4 males, 2 females. And, we always talk about how hard it is to get things going. I know it's a trap. I know these damn things are eating tilapia chunks out of my hand.
Nice.
Out of my hand. So I've got them all set up. I'm going to make a post on our page in a week or two, just showing, because I'm literally treating them like fish. Like Mike Clarkson, I talked to Mike, like, can I treat these things like a homelopsid? He was like, absolutely, and that's what I'm doing. And they're doing great so far, but I do feel like it's a trap. So that's another update. Is I've got some really weird new dipsadids in the mix here at the Loughman homestead, and they're not at school. They're here. I'm also keeping them in bins outside, which is kind of interesting. So it's been they've been a lot of fun. But I left for a week in Georgia, did some field work, almost stepped on a freaking cottonmouth like 3 times. Digging crayfish and ditches. It was absolutely fantastic. My 2 worlds came together beautifully. When I came back, I was thinking, well, hold on to your butts. Let's see if these guys made it through their first full week. And these little heads are staring at me. And I thought they would eat straight from my hand. And I gave them a tilapia chunk, and all 6 ate from my hands. So
that's
there
awesome.
you go.
That's cool.
So that's a fun update.
Very nice,
okay,
man.
We've got some Colubridfest stuff to talk about.
We do. We've got quite a few things, in terms of Colubridfest that I think it's exciting as hell. I mean,
it is extremely exciting.
So why don't we start with, let's end on the lectures. How's that?
Sure. That's fine.
So I think what we want to do is let's talk about the edition.
Yeah.
What's new this year, because
we got one small edition and then we got one really big edition.
Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and start the small. You start the small, I'll hit the big.
If you listen to the show, you know this. If it's your first time listening, with Colubridfest, we're trying to kind of up-level what a reptile gathering can be. So it's not just the show, as we all know. The show is limited to Sunday. This thing starts on Friday evening with an icebreaker event. And I am a nerd, and some of you are nerds, and that's a term of endearment. And when you say icebreaker to an introverted nerd like myself, I picture more fun taking a red hot ice pick and shoving it into my ear and then into my eye repeatedly than going to a freaking icebreaker. And I, brought this up, and Clint and Mickey were like, okay, what are we going to do? So I made the suggestion of having 2 kind of fun talks Friday evening. So there's an icebreaker to the icebreaker, because people like myself like to go to something that is organized and structured, which then kind of gives us that to fall back on, and then the ability to talk to people. The other problem was, if you're a keeper and you're not a breeder and you're going to the show on Friday, if you went last week, not last week, it feels like last week. If you went last year, there was kind of like this group of people milling around in this room while all the breeders are setting up. These talks are going to be during the setup period. So that way, the people kind of coming in that don't necessarily have a table to set up Friday evening have something to do. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do these 2 talks. We haven't settled on both talks.
I think we've got it now.
So my talk is, I'm just going to do the diversity of colubrid and colubroid snakes and define that, because I taught that snake biology course, and I have plenty of material, and it's going to be videos and just kind of the fun stuff from that class and a primer on what it is, the taxonomy, the ecology. So there's that. And then what was the other talk?
The other is going to be sexing snakes.
Yes.
Probing, popping, something that I think, especially a lot of newer keepers and even newer breeders, even some experienced breeders, it may be a beneficial, talk for a lot of people and a lot of us. So I think that's going to be a real fun one for everybody too.
Yeah. So that's the smaller edition. And then that'll kind of lead directly into the actual icebreaker once people got their tables set up, blah blah blah. So that's that. And then the second edition we're stoked about.
Yeah.
And this is, like I said, like we said, we want to make Colubridfest better, and it's for you all, and it's for our community.
100%.
So there's no better way to do than to honor our community than what we came up with.
Yeah, 100%. And that's really where it came from was, we kept thinking, and we would say it is, okay, we want to do more this year. And, we said that while, bridging academics with the hobby and bringing it together, that's a way of really just saying we're wanting to build the community, unite the community, celebrate the community, honor the community. So what we decided was something that we should do is if we're going to talk about wanting to really honor the community, we should probably honor those in the community that are helping make the community better through their efforts. And so with that, Saturday night, prior to the auction, we will now have an award ceremony. And we came up, I think it's 11 categories, 11, I believe.
Yeah. It was funny because we started with 4. And then we Zac'd it, and then it went from 4 to 11. Like, it didn't go 4, 6, 8, 10. It went 4, 11. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
And the categories, I'm going to see if I can remember them off my head. You might have to help me with this. So I know we have Breeder of the Year categories, and that's going to be Lamprepeltis.
Yep.
That's going to be rat snakes. That's going to be hognose, large colubrid breeders, which is going to be 8 foot plus.
Yep.
Other category. So, another colubrid category. Am I forgetting any?
I can't remember if we did Pitchophis or not.
We did, yes. Pitchophis.
Yeah. I think we got rid of the other category and we put in Pitchophis. Or is there?
I think that's where the 11th came from because we had 10. I think that's where the 11 came from. And then we are going to have a Lifetime Achievement Award. We're going to have, I believe it's titled Best Community Representative.
Yes.
Award. So it's kind of the individual who has, really put it out there for outreach and just building the community as a whole. We have best, or the most innovative keeper award, and the best new species award. So someone who has introduced a new species to captivity and is, is working on those and made big strides there. And I feel like I might be, was that 10 or 11? I lost count. I ran out of fingers.
You should have had a legal pad out.
I should have. So I might be forgetting one, or maybe I nailed them all. Somebody will count them and tell me. Yep. But either way, the way that this is going to work, because again, this is for the community. It needs to be by the community.
And we wanted, I want to say one thing real quick. Sorry about that. We also want to make sure that there are awards for keepers. It wasn't just about breeders, people that are keepers, people that represent us well, people that are very giving of their time. You can own 4 corn snakes and be innovative as hell with your 4 corn snakes. And that's why we wanted to also include, those types of individuals in addition to the people that are producing the animals that ultimately are kept.
Absolutely. And the way that this is going to play out, right now, over the next, I think, by the time you hear this, it may have a week and a half left. It's a 3-week period where Mickey and his team are rolling out 3 to 4 categories at a time on the Show Me Facebook page. And you can go there and vote for the nominations. Okay, so this first round is simply you get 1 vote, go in. If there's anyone you think should be considered for this, give their name. And we're going to take the top 5 names. So the names that are mentioned the most, those top 5 in each category. Then we will have the voting for the actual winner off of those 5 nominations. And whenever you go to the Show Me page, you'll be able to find a full synopsis of what that award is for.
Yep.
So you have a better idea on who, you will want to vote for, whose name you'll want to throw out there. Everyone is game. You can vote for anyone you want. This is, again, these awards are for the community, and it's going to be decided by the community. And I'm so stoked to get to stand up there and give these awards out. You know what I mean? That's going to be incredible. And again, this is something that differentiates Colubridfest from any other show, any other, reptile gathering that's really taking place now. Is it's just another added layer of community building.
Goodness.
Yes. So super stoked about that.
And then, oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and then the other big piece, and we're going to announce it here now, I think. And everybody's been asking us, for these, and we will have this posted on social media. Max will get it on the website. We'll have all this coming through, but Zac is going to officially announce the guest speakers.
Yes. So we have, it's funny because we started off saying that there was like one theme, but in reality, we can never just do one of anything. There's multiple themes in our day on Saturday. So the first talk is going to be by Dr. Ben Morrill with Rare Genetics Inc. And he's going to be giving a talk. I titled all of these, Good to Know What We Don't Know. And that panel is going to focus on basically common genetic misconceptions. We all know that we talk about codominant, but in reality, biologically, I distinctly remember sitting on my couch trying to understand what the hell codominant was, because my understanding as a biologist of what codominant was not what I was reading on, that the Herpers were saying codominant was. And so last year I talked to Ben and was like, could you do like a primer on genetics? And more importantly, this is where the panel format works out really well, because Ben's going to give a talk and introduce people to what is an allele, what is a gene, how do genes work, all that kind of jazz. But then there's 40 minutes of this hour that are dedicated to people in the audience asking a PhD geneticist, what the hell's going on with this? And so that's what I really like. And so his is basically Genetics 101. Next talk, we have the Church of Lassiter, as Payne Shab likes to say. John Lassiter's coming all the way up from Texas, and he's giving a talk we've titled Keeping Kings. And it's not just about keeping, Alterna and Mex and things. He's actually going over the process of him keeping, and more specifically, he's started keeping a lot of his animals in applegate enclosures, which is, if you don't know what those are, they're the vivariums with the false bottoms. And he keeps some in racks. And I thought, well, we always try to give both sides the argument here. Well, Lassiter's doing both. And we all know when you think Mex Alterna, you think Lassiter. That's just the way it is. So I'm really excited that he's coming up. And with his talk, we're introducing this idea of enrichment. And one of the things about enrichment is I have this idea where, and this might put some people off. It's not intended to, but I feel like enrichment in recent years has almost been weaponized, and that if you're not enriching your animals, you're not doing them well. And as a guy that teaches that in all my courses and did a deep dive on the scientific definitions of enrichment, technically speaking, if you take an eyedropper full of water that has mouse urine in it and you dribble a path in your rack tub, you've just enriched those snakes. So we're going to define enrichment. We're going to talk about enrichment. This is my talk, and we're bringing in Kayla Martin, because we all know that Kayla does these amazing setups. But if you talk to Kayla, she oftentimes says, they look cool, but they're very they're simplistic and advanced at the same time. So we want to kind of introduce the science of enrichment, then talk about the pragmatism of enrichment, and then have an open discussion about enrichment. Then we have a break. Okay, theme 1 is done. Now, theme 2 is a fun one, keeping with IHS, where there was the talk by the veterinarian at UF, Dr. Oz, that scared the hell out of everybody. I thought it'd be really cool if we kind of, instead of running away from things like crypto, if we just hit crypto head on, Colubridfest, we can just have the discussion, get it out in the open. And so we talked to our resident vet for the show, Dr. Whitman, who gave the talk that everybody loved on dystocia, and asked him, what do you want to do this year, Doc? And he basically said, I'd like to do some emerging colubrid diseases and then talk about what the hell quarantine is. And quarantine is an extremely important process. And I can tell you, I've listened to people talk about quarantine, and a lot of people have solid quarantine practices, and a lot of people think they're doing quarantine. They're not. So we're going to discuss quarantine with Dr. Whitman, talk about cleaners, talk about diseases, talk about all that stuff. And so if you have questions about, SFD, if you've got questions about crypto, if you've got anything along those lines, that kind of the boogeyman piece, Whitman's going to discuss that. And then, and he gave a fantastic talk. So that's cool. And then following that, we have the hognose piece. John Rice is coming back from Fathom Hogs. He gave our first talk last year. And then Jeff Galewood from JMG is coming in. Both of these guys maintain hundreds and hundreds of snakes, and they have to worry about diseases, and they have similar but different practices. And I thought there's no better talk to follow a quarantine talk than how to manage your collection so you don't get the diseases in the first place. And so that's what those guys are going to be talking about. And that's going to be a fun one. Anybody knows John, anybody knows Jeff, they're fun, they're engaging. Mm-hmm. That's going to be I'm looking forward to that one. Then we take a break, and then we enter our third theme of the day, which is celebrating what we do, and at the same time, doing it in a way where you can stay engaged and stay happy with what you're doing instead of burning out because you're 10 miles wide and an inch deep. And so to that, we have Joe DiStefano from the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. He's going to be giving a talk. So you want to start a project, round 2. I called it round 2 because last year we had a talk. So you want to start a project that Matt Most gave. Most has lots of experience. We know this. We all go to Matt. He was also the co-host of the show, Joe's younger, but he's kicking ass and taking names, and he has started several projects. And he also wanted to give a perspective from a young person. What I mean by young person, someone in their 20s, because us troglodytes don't understand how to use the technology at our fingertips. And meanwhile, Joe does it and it's just like breathing. So maybe a different perspective, engaging social media the right way. How do you do that? All that jazz. And then we have the one, the only Clint Bartley. And at this point, Eric Westmoreland. And then I have and so on, because there's 2 more people that I've asked. I haven't heard from them, but I wanted to get this out, which is the culture of colubrid culture. I made that word up. I'm proud of that. That's what academics do. We make new words. And this is selling snakes. It should say snakes, not snake, in passion, which is, we always talk about market and getting your animals out there. And we have to talk about that because let's be real. When you make babies, you can't sit on 50 baby snakes. But at the same time, we also want to bring those ball python breeders, those crested gecko people, the people that might be lost out of herpetoculture because they may have gone towards another element than what we do, back into our fold. So how do we get them to come over? And the way we get them to come over is by getting them to get a corn snake, get a milk snake. But then once they have the milk snake, we got to sell why that's the coolest thing in their collection. And so this is kind of similar to the last talk we had last year, but it's a different vein. And so I'm pretty pumped about the talks this year. There's common threads. There's something for everybody. If you're a keeper, there's plenty there. If you're a breeder, there's plenty there. If you like the marketing stuff, it's there. If you like the science, it's there. It's all there. And we also got this done a month earlier than we did last year. So these are going to be dropping. We're going to be advertising the hell out of this stuff too. But that's the talk. So there's your Colubridfest update. Anything else?
I think that's it. I believe the hotel block it's either still open or it's been upped to add more. So you can go to the official Colubridfest fan page on Facebook, and I think it's pinned up there, or just search hotel, in the group, and you'll find the link for that hotel block. So that's, again, another really fun thing that I think is going to be added this year, is that most of the individuals attending Colubridfest are sleeping under the same roof, and that's going to be another added layer of hanging out and fun stuff. So,
and get your tables now.
And to answer a question that has been asked many times, one, sponsors can hop on and sponsor directly through the Show Me Reptiles website. You can there's everything is point and click, and we can make that happen. There's also if you are wanting to be a vendor, go to Show Me's website. If you have not vended a Show Me show before, you will need to sign up to become a vendor. It takes a day or so, and then once your account is active, you can go in and sign up for Colubridfest. If you're having difficulty finding anything about Colubridfest on the Show Me website, just simply search on their search bar Colubridfest, and it'll pull it up. The tickets, because I've been asked many times about individuals wanting to purchase tickets early. At this venue, the tickets are sold through the venue, not through Show Me. So it's a little different than some other venues. So Mickey is currently working on having a purchase link from the venue that he can put on the Show Me website, so you can go through and get your tickets early. But don't panic. I mean, there's no limit on the tickets. So if you can't order them early, it's not a problem. You're going to be able to do it right there at the door. But obviously, if most people are like me, I like to have my stuff early, so I'm not standing in a line or going up to the door. So Mickey is working on that so that we will be able to purchase them early.
Okay. All right. We're speed talking.
We are. Update. Yeah, market update's going to be real soft and short because there's not much change from the last time that I've given an update. I will tell you that what I'm seeing, we're still in the summer show slowdown where the shows don't seem to be as fruitful. And you may still have the same number of people through the door, but as we know, as vendors, if you're vending a show, you're okay with half the people coming through the door as long as they're all bringing their wallet, right? And right now, that's really not the case. Some people are going to do well, but again, I'm talking market as the broad statement. The summer months are a little slower. You've got a lot of individuals who are just a few weeks away from going back to school right now. So you either have they're cramming in vacations and whatnot before they go back to school, or they just got back from vacation. So there's just a tighter, money time, or they're paying for all those new clothes, new shoes, all that to send their kids to school. So there's just, there's not as much disposable income over the next few weeks, which is again, typical, common. But with the explosion of babies that are hatching now, give yourself about that 3-week period from now, maybe 4 weeks, and you're going to start seeing a lot of that pick back up. However, as I said before, online sales continue to be solid and continue to trend pretty well. And I'm seeing it on random stuff. I mean, there could be some snakes that are still listed from 8, 9, 10 months ago that suddenly, boom, 3 of them, pow, selling together. So it's not that there's a trend on any one species at the moment, any one type, anything. I'm getting inquiries across the board on a whole variety of species. So the online market is still strong. Just don't expect, like your local shows and things like that to do too much for you at the beginning. And I know some of our shows don't, the show promoters don't want us to say that. I'm not saying don't go to the shows, obviously. The market update is brought to you obviously by the Show Me Reptile Show. And you're still going to have a good time, especially if you're going as someone who is simply wanting to go in and be in the community, be surrounded by reptiles and reptile people. So go enjoy the shows, support the shows. And if you can, support the vendors at the same time. We'll see those popping off. My guess would be probably within the next 4 weeks, the shows are really going to be fruitful for everyone again. So short and sweet on the market update this week.
Okay. I'm going to need a little bit of help with RGI to make sure I say this correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. So science updates brought to us by Rare Genetics, Inc. As always, get those shed skins out to Ben and Kaylin Company. They will also be at Colubridfest kind of during that awards ceremony auction night. They're going to have the floor to talk about what happened as a result of Colubridfest with them, and then talk about the future with what they've got going on. You want your snake sexed? No better way to do it than DNA. It costs $25. Not that expensive. but it can actually potentially be a little bit cheaper because RGI has a new deal for Colubrid and Colubrid radio listeners. And so I'm going to kick it over to Clint, our market guy, to get the details right so the nerd doesn't say the numbers wrong.
Not a problem. Well, first, we want to celebrate because Rare Genetics Inc. has now made it so that you can order the test directly off of their website.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, it was Morph Market and Clutch were the two places that you would need to go to order genetic testing. And now you can do it straight from Rare Genetics Inc.'s own website. And for all of the CCR listeners, whether it is a shed test for sexing your animals, whether it is a colubrid shed test or a ball python shed test, if you use coupon code CCR15, that again is CCR15 at raregeneticsinc.com, you'll save 15% off of any of your genetic testing. And now Sean told me that at the moment, they don't have a separate, let's call it panel or a separate place to click for colubrid testing yet. They don't have that built on the website. So what you can do is, I believe they're having it, I'm scrolling through it now, where if you go into the ball python shed testing, they're going to have it listed as like corn snake / and then in whatever they have, Tessera, AML, what have you. And of course, if there's one that, you're pretty sure that they have, but you don't see it, shoot them a message and they'll let you know how to process it. They will have it, updated pretty soon to where all of the colubrid testing is separate, but they're, in process, and they wanted to make sure that right off the bat, as soon as they had anything on there, that our listeners were going to be able to get themselves some savings. So do that, please, because that is something that does help the show. Meaning, when Rare Genetics Inc., when they get sheds from colubrid keepers and they know that they're hearing about needing the sheds from us, obviously it helps make sure that RGI wants to stay a sponsor for CCR, but also they will see and be able to track all the coupon codes that are utilized. Yep. So every time you use CCR15, it's telling RGI that, hey, you're supporting the right group, and, we're hearing about this and we're coming to you for it. So please continue to do that. Support them. One other piece, and you probably don't know this one, Zach, because I just saw it right before we started. They are requesting heterodon sheds. Yeah. Yeah. So, they are now looking to make some of the moves towards the hognose morphs and hognose genes. So please save your hognose sheds. Get those sent in. Let them know. Make sure it's a known gene, a known mutation. Yeah, it's guaranteed. It's in there. Shoot that to them so that we can start helping them build the hognose morph index. That's cool. That's really cool.
All right. So now to the actual science update. I'm going to kick it back to journal articles in August because I have been all over the freaking country the past 2.5 months. But until then, I have one final book review, and it's a good one. And here it is. And so for those, that can see, Old World Rat Snakes, a collection of papers. And this is, of course, done by Klaus. He's the main editor. Now, this is a fun book. And for those of you who don't, necessarily follow truly nerdy books, that's what this is. Because what this really is it's not necessarily a book, but it's an edited volume where there were like over 15 papers on Asiatic rat snakes that didn't really have a place to go, but they had a common thread. And so Klaus served as an editor, approached these authors, and then gave them a home in the form of this book. Now, if you ever get it, if you're an old world rat snake, not old rat, Jesus. If you're an old world rat snake keeper, we all know about the monograph on Alephi, which is like the Bible of the Bibles of the Bibles. This would be the book that goes along with the Bible. I don't know what that is or if that even exists, but there you go. And what's fun about this one is it's got some pretty cool papers. If you're a rhino rat keeper and you want a paper on the ecology of rhino rats, the only paper that ever really looked at that in the history of anything is in here. If you want a checklist, now granted, I don't remember when this came out, so I'm going to bear with me while I look for that. But up until that moment in time, this had all the rat snakes that were known. Why can't I read this? Up until 2013, so it's a little bit older. Now, you know, I was listening to Kevin Messenger on Joe's show, and he said, like, I put out my book, and then the next year, 5 Asian rat snakes were described. So there's definitely snakes that are missing from this volume, but the checklist is great. There's photographs of pretty much every Asiatic rat snake, so if you want some reference material there. And then there's a lot of ecology in there. When I was doing my Asian rat snake experiment here at the house, we'll just call it that, I got a copy of this off of Matt before Matt and I were co-hosts, and I read that thing in a weekend. It's a great, fun book, but it doesn't have a beginning, middle, and an end. Each chapter is essentially an individual paper. So Asiatic rat snake people, get yourself a copy of this. It's got a nice calico beauty snake on the cover. It's a great one. Recommended highly. It can get a little pricey. So this is one, like if Mike Crick's selling it, this is going to be 100 plus. But go to some of those other bookstore. I saw a copy of this once for $15 and tried to buy it, and somebody beat me to it. So you can get it occasionally cheaper. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that was one of the last, if not the last book that Klaus produced. So there it is. Your science updates. After this, I've got a pile of journal articles. There's one journal article. I've had at least a dozen people ask me to cover it. I'm not going to tell what it is, but you probably know. And we got called out in our Patreon call because I haven't covered it yet. So that manuscript will be covered in the next episode because I will actually have time to breathe whenever that one happens. So that's your science update. And somehow we covered, that was a very dense intro.
and look at the time.
Yep. We
42 minutes. We've said our intro is typically 42 minutes, and we stayed on track. Yeah. Very proud of the both of us for this one.
Yes. Okay.
Well, are we ready to move into it?
We are ready to move into it. So bringing to the stage currently.
One sec. We've got, as always, our guest segment is brought to you by ReptiChip. ReptiChip has some phenomenal products out there and working on some new ones. We love what ReptiChip does. I use it here. Zac uses it there. So please support ReptiChip and support those that support us. So, all right.
Stay on the stage for a minute or two if you're watching this on YouTube. So we have the one, the only Mr. Phil Peak. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine, fellas. Thanks for having me on.
Looking forward to it. I think, what we're going to be talking about today is everything is going to be centralized in the state of Kentucky, really. And it's, Kentucky is kind of what joined Zac and I. With me being an Indiana boy and him being West Virginia, it's you're right there. You're what we cuddle against here. So,
yes,
I think this is going to be exciting because it's really going to be something both of us can relate to because of, the time both of us spend in that state. For those who don't know, Evansville is literally located right where Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky touch. So I'm in Kentucky a lot.
You have a store in Kentucky.
I do. We have Metazotics is in Henderson as well. So
there you go.
But welcome, Phil. We are happy to have you, buddy.
Yep, happy to be here, fellas.
Okay, so we always ask people, and a little bit of a disclosure. Very rarely do Clint or I do something for us, and it would be a bit of BS if I didn't come clean that this is just a treat for me, and you all get to hear it. Because I've followed this story since I was in undergrad, which I was telling Phil before we came on. So what we're going to talk about tonight are Kentucky pine snakes and kind of the backstory on how they came to be and how they were found and the science and the herpetoculture and the field herping. But before we get to that, if you follow field herping on Facebook or social media or the old Field Herper forums and all that kind of jazz, you'll know Phil. Phil had a partner in crime back in the day, Will Bird, and they basically would put up these posts that would make me drool as a herper of all these snakes, and the pictures were great. But before we get into that, is this something you've always done? Can we get the backstory on Phil as a herp?
Yeah, how'd Phil get into snakes in the first place?
Yeah,
I guess I've always had a strong interest in snakes, but a lot of my interest predates the new age of like social media and back before there were computers and the ability to network with people with a similar interest. So a lot of us who didn't know anyone else pretty much did our own thing. Literally, I guess fast forward up to around 1998, Will, myself, Ron Allen, a few other guys got together. We formed the Kentucky Herpetological Society. And at that point, we actually had a place to kind of get together and fraternize. Early on, our state herpetologist, a man by the name of John McGregor, a really great guy, he was trying to get help and assistance in trying to create a database for reptiles and amphibians in Kentucky. And that's something that Will and I had a shared interest in. So right around that time, we formed basically an alliance or a partnership. And I guess for the next 20 years, him and I did everything we could to further learn about herpetology in Kentucky and contribute to it. So we would literally spend off days every week. We would plan vacation time around it. We would even go down in the winter months and try to make new artificial cover sites and to network and try to find properties that we could go on. And then I guess 2020 was the last year him and I got out together as a team. And since then, I guess I've continued my field work. And to this day, actually, I still go out like spring, summer, and fall. I go out at least once or twice a week and try to collect information and data. So I guess long story short, I've always had an interest specifically in the herpetology of Kentucky and even more specific in snakes. So when Will and I got together, we had a couple of things that, aside from gathering baseline data on the distribution of reptiles and amphibians in the state, we also had a strong interest in some of the species that were considered somewhat scarce or even rare. Two of those was one was the corn snake in Kentucky, and the other was the northern pine snake. So we actually we gathered a tremendous amount of data on the corn snake. We did morphometrics and meristical information, and with the assistance of Dana Baxley with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we was able to actually publish all that information in a scientific journal, which is really nice because she assisted us in putting it like at a tangible form because neither one of us were truly academics in that sense. She was a PhD, a brilliant lady. But the other part, of course, was the northern pine snake, and much more difficult. So that kind of kicked things off. And the first snake came really ridiculously easy. That was in Callaway County, Kentucky, in 2002 in September. And just so happened, a friend of ours had found a pine snake, and he brought it to Murray State University. He didn't like what was going on with the snake there. He feared that the snake wouldn't thrive, and he took it and he released it. And we went down the following week, and we literally found that snake. So, of course, our interest was also in herpetoculture. We didn't know where this would land, but we thought, man, this one came pretty easy. We know there's none of these in captivity. What if we could go ahead and find a male and we could start producing these in captivity? And of course, aside from giving hatchlings away to educational facilities and zoos and nature centers, we also had a vision of maybe having one day a reintroduction into the wild. So as things turned out, we did find another one. The Callaway County area is like literally about a 4.5-hour drive from Louisville, where we live. So even though we go out there a crazy amount of times, it was difficult to do so. So we also knew about the population that at least historically occurred in the Mammoth Cave region. And we also had a lot of connections there. We'd been very successful finding the corn snakes. And so we decided to center our efforts there. In the eastern part of the state, particularly in Harlan County, in the Cumberland Mountains, There's old records from literally 1925, Funkhauser, and there's also some records in the Cumberland Plateau that is from Whitley and McCreary counties. And we had friends who were biologists at the at Touchstone Energy who concentrated their efforts at the Dandelion National Forest and also at all the historical data points there. And they never was able to actually turn one up, despite tremendous efforts with funnel traps and artificial cover sites. They was very diligent in trying to find one. Unfortunately, the last pine snake from that area that's been verified was in 1984. In the cave region, before we discovered the one on June 11th, 2006, the one prior to that was like in the 1960s, a live specimen. We were aware of we found a newspaper clipping from Brownsville where a gentleman had found two, actually, believe it or not, copulating in his field. And they startled this little girl, and she screamed, and he just kind of reacted and killed the snakes, and his picture was in the paper. And we went to talk to him, and he had no idea the rarity of those snakes. He regretted it, but it was just a reaction that he had. And he gave us access to survey on his property. And we found a lot of snakes there over the next 15 years, but no more pine snakes. The most recent cave region pine snake is occasionally I would throw a post up on Facebook to see, just basically throwing bait out there to see if anybody out there has seen these animals because they are so rare. And there was a fellow that had family down there, and he went down. It was Memorial Day weekend, 2013. And right down a road that we've been back and forth, hundreds of times, there was a DOR, and he sent me the photographs, and we got all the information off of it. But they're exceedingly rare. The cave region animals, it's like the people down there are definitely an outdoor, like a hunting culture. Spend a tremendous amount of time like hunting for turkey and deer. And we found early on the only people who had seen these snakes, they refer to them as yellow bull snakes, were typically people at least in their 70s or 80s. We didn't find a single person who was younger who had ever actually seen one. Huh. So we kind of knew what we was up against. But yeah, we spent every available day we had. We'd go down in the winter months. We'd go to the general stores. And the old guys sitting around the pickle barrel playing checkers, and we talk to them, and we get access. We put out funnel traps, we put out AC, we road cruise, we hiked habitat, and of course we did finally find the one. So we brought those two animals together for a captive breeding project. And even though one is Edmonson County and one was Callaway County, it's my belief, at least, that in historic times, and probably not that long ago, it was a contiguous population. Probably from the Cumberland Mountains all the way through southern Kentucky. Just the habitat loss has made it impossible for the snakes to actually continue to exist in some of these areas of intensive agriculture. So,
before we move past it, I kind of want to hear that story of when you found that snake, because that wasn't hey, we found one. Go ahead and bag it.
Well, I want to back it
up. Go ahead.
I want to back it up to what was it like when. So had you been looking for them when the guy found the one already, or was it like? Because I know as a field guy, I've definitely been given the task of like, I'm going to go find something rare, and then people think it's rare, and then I kind of know a little bit about what I'm doing, and so I go out, and then it's like, oh, I've been doing this for like a day, and I found 13. Like, that literally happened with my trip to Georgia. Yeah. And then I go home, I come back, and then I don't see them for the next 8 years of my life. Did you have those vibes, or did you like literally know like how incredibly awesome it was that guy had found that?
Yeah, we knew of the rarity of it. We absolutely did. Our friend, the state herpetologist, he had found a couple of specimens back in the early 1970s in the general vicinity down there. And that's when it was, I guess there was a little bit more open canopy, which the pine snakes require. And but since then, it's like they've been, and to this day, literally, in the western Kentucky population, by that I'm talking about Trigg County, Lyon County, and Callaway County, there's usually an animal that turns up every 3 or 4 years, either live or DOR, especially in Callaway. The past year, May 2024, a friend of mine that lives out there, He had us a contact, had a property, and the guy knew it was something different, took a photograph of it, and it was a northern pine snake in Callaway. The good thing is he did not kill it. So the animal's still out there. Of course, on our end, we would love to bring in some more genetic material. But at this point, he's talked to his friend. If he sees another one, he's going to try to contact me, and I'll drive down there if need be and try to secure the animal for breeding purposes.
So this was the first one that you found.
That is correct. Yeah, that was in September 2002.
Okay, and so this is the snake that the guy found and then released, and then you guys went down and found it again.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. It's just, he found the snake, and it went to, like I say, like to Murray State for, I guess, their herp lab for a short time, and he thought the snake needed to be away from there. I guess it was just too much commotion inside of a university classroom and stuff. So we was fully aware of that snake, and he released us and showed us where that snake was, and I guess we crossed a diamond with a pearl, basically, and walked it up right up, So we was able to secure that snake, and it was a little bit thin, as you could see. So one of the things that it's interesting. Sometimes I hear people say, like, "Oh yeah, with a wild caught animal, you need to be very, very slow, very cautious in how you handle it." And I don't agree with that. I believe that you find an animal in the wild, feed it, offer it food, because at that point the animal is still a little bit disoriented, and it's going to do what's natural. So we had that long discussion on the long drive back to Louisville, and so Will went ahead and took that snake in and fed it a rat the next day, and it thrived. It kept it down, and it got weight on it and became our future breeder.
Real quick, for those who aren't watching this and just hearing it, I want to describe the animal that we're looking at right now. As this is a northern pine, but not like northern pines that you're typically seeing or envisioning, because basically where a northern pine is usually like a white with a deep chocolate brown, not black, but leaning towards it, saddles, in those dorsal markings. This animal is a yellow background. I mean, and it's a beautiful yellow with a nice dark markings. And it's, otherwise it's going to, typical structure and everything is going to look very similar, but you can definitely see that there is a difference here than, any other northern pine that you're typically seeing in the trade. So I just kind of wanted to point that out for any of us who are listening instead of watching.
Yeah, something else, and I should mention this, like, I do believe there's subtle differences in morphology between these interior pine snakes and coastal pines. If you look closely, like at the structure of the skull, you'll see some differences, for instance, between one of these snakes and maybe a Jersey pine. The other thing is like they tend to have a slightly higher dorsal blotch count. And by looking at snakes that we have produced and captured, and also pickles, for instance, like the males typically have about 27 dorsal blotches, females about 29, which is just a little bit higher than, like, say, a Jersey animal, for instance. Also, you'll notice they typically have fused interior blotches, which is like, I'm sure other populations also will have that trait at times, but that seems to be a signature look for these snakes. And as you mentioned, a lot of them will have a yellow or a yellowish look to them. Not all of them. I've seen photographs, and I've seen various ones that maybe are not necessarily yellow, but there is a tendency for that trait to come through.
Is this an animal you produced, or is this one of the ones that was found?
Okay, this animal right here is a Callaway County animal. This was actually found by a friend of mine, and he allowed me to photograph it. Unfortunately, and you can't really see from the photograph, he had this snake for a number of years. He lived out in Callaway County, and the snake itself had like an inoperable tumor, and the snake died because he got with us, and we're like, man, like, can we use this as a breeder? And you can't really see it in the photograph, but I was able to photograph it and get some data off of the snake. But unfortunately, it didn't last very much longer. It didn't go through the next breeding season, unfortunately. So it is a snake found by a friend of ours.
Okay. And then, is this the female you found?
This is the male from Edmonson County. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and this snake is it's still alive. Last I spoke with Will about it, I brought this snake home, and it was rather thin. It was 32 inches long, and I beefed that snake up, kept it for the next 10 years or so, and it ended up being like around 8 foot long. Really large snake. And then I didn't think it was right for me to have the honor to keep this snake into perpetuity. So I asked Will if he'd like to keep that snake for a while, and he said yes. So to this day, he still has this snake. He's got a great big exhibit cage, so I think that's what that snake should be. It's been a great breeder, but at this point, the snake's getting pretty old, and he told me the last couple reproductive efforts didn't work out with it.
Gotcha.
Beautiful animal. Wow.
Yeah, that was it's certainly a surreal experience for sure. That was the one that was on June 11th, 2006.
So that was the first one that you guys found, right?
No, the first one we found was 2002, and that was female in Callaway. And this is the one this is our male from 2000.
Oh, gotcha. I am backwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, the picture in between was one that a friend of ours who lives in Callaway County had found, and he allowed me to photograph it and to collect information off of it.
Well, I want to hear about that find. I want to hear about, how wet were your pants after stumbling across these? Because, I mean, good Lord, that had to be just such an amazing event.
Yeah, what did you do to find it? Was it undercover? Was it in a drift fence?
Anybody who's I guess reads any kind of post I make or has read our snake hunting guide knows that Will and I both was really into, and still to this day, I'm really into artificial cover.
Yeah,
and I think if you could find just about any snake out there, it's all about placement, sun angles, trajectories. With large, heavy-bodied pit vipers like timber rattlesnakes, crawl space. All these different nuances that you're looking for when you're surveying for snakes. That right there is the actual metal that snake was found under. That particular day, I guess what was remarkable about it was like I remember it being like just steamy hot, very, very muggy day. We got an early start, and we found a number of snakes. We had a good diversity. I remember that. We found it was probably like 15 different species, which is, pretty good day. And we only found 44 snakes total, which is like decent, but not great. Back in those days, we could find like 100 snakes in one day on a really good day. But nonetheless, we flipped material and we found a number of snakes, and then it got too hot. We road cruised and knowing that we wasn't going to find anything under AC for a while. And we had some trap sites, and we had this site right here was one that we really liked. And so I guess we decided let's wait until later this evening and save it and see what happens, because we knew some storms are going to be rolling through. And sure enough, probably 5 or 6 o'clock, here comes the storms. And we thought, in fact, that maybe we overshot it. We was going to get to it too late. And sure enough, it's like the trees are bowing over and you could hear claps of thunder. And we get to the site, and it just seemed like every sheet of whatever it was, whether it be board or metal, had a snake under it. We're finding rattlesnakes and copperheads and hognose and all these things. And we got to the end, and we flipped this piece of metal, and there's this pine snake. And like I say, it was 32 inches long. He was blue. And it was absolutely surreal. It's like a moment that stood still in time. And I'll never forget that. And I knew at that point, literally, that is going to be that was the most outstanding moment I could possibly have in the field, in my opinion, for myself. And I guess here not too long, in 2022, I found a Western pygmy rattlesnake, which is extremely rare in Kentucky, and that was huge. But even that snake pales in comparison to this cave region pine snake, in my opinion. That was the good news is we found it. We validated that this population had not been extirpated, which was our fear. The bad thing was, like I say, that was the high water mark, and anything beyond that, is short of maybe finding another. We gave a dedicated effort. It's interesting also, this property, it's like it wasn't posted. We didn't know. We knew somebody owned it. It was in the vicinity, very near Mammoth Cave National Park. And there's areas down there where there's no electricity, no water. And guys are like I say, it's kind of a hunting culture. So guys will have places where they hunt deer, and they'll have little clearings where they'll put deer corn out and have trees and stuff like that. but we could not figure out who owned this property. But we knew we wanted to be there, and whatever it took. And we investigated and found out that the man that owned the property was known as like a raging lunatic, a violent man. And they literally told us, like, man, listen, you do not want to be there. You don't want to talk to this guy. And so we're like, well, we have to, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
that's just the way it is. So we went to like a little general store, and there's a bunch of guys playing checkers again. And we're like, hey, we're looking for a man by the name of, this name. And all of a sudden, everybody just stops. Salute or something crazy, So this one fellow says, what do you want with this guy, And we're like, well, we want to get on his property. And he's like, you don't want to go there. So we told him what our situation was. And he's like, listen, he goes, I've known this man all my life. He's violent. He's shot people, hurt people, and all this stuff. And he's a lunatic. He says, I'm not going to go to his house. He goes, well, I'll go drive past it because I'll point to it. He goes, you'll know it when you see it. And he says, look at the sign out front. And so I said, well, what's the sign say? He's like, I'm a Christian man. He goes, I can't repeat what the sign says. I'm like, oh, good Lord. Anyhow, long story short, we get to the house, and we beat on the door, and this man comes out, and he kind of gives us this look. And I try to very quickly get to the point of what we're trying to do. And I told him, sir, I said, this might sound crazy. I said, but, we're a couple of guys looking for snakes. And he has this maniacal laughter, and he's like, crazy. He goes, you don't know what crazy is, So, this guy, he invites us in, and it was completely off the charts. This guy had like walls full of like meat cleavers and knives and pistols. He had like a whaling harpoon. He had a reconstructed horse-drawn hearse in his front room. Great big jars full of like pickled cow's eyes. I mean, it was just one that looked like a museum of curiosities.
You didn't know if you were coming out of there, did you, Phil?
And he pulled the pistol off the wall and aims it at Will's head and pulled the hammer back, and we're like, oh my gosh. I mean, Will's like, looked like somebody done drained the blood out of him, right? And he's like, let's go for a ride. So we get into his vehicle. We're driving around, and he's talking all kinds of madness about the local, I guess, tribes of people there and how they're still there in the woods and all kinds of craziness. But it somehow, at the end of it all, he liked us. And he told us to go to his property. So we're like, can we sign a lease? Can we do whatever it takes to secure this? He's like, you don't even need to, because you go there and do anything you want. So we did. And we went there, and the one photo that I sent earlier is a photograph of this trap array. It's the finest trap array we ever did. We worked on that thing, and we had it for 1 year.
Oh, I got that.
Tons of snakes, and but we didn't get a pine snake, but we knew it's just a matter of time. But sure enough, by the following year, we're there, and he walks up on us, and it's as if he didn't know who we were. And he pulls out his gun. He threatens to shoot Will again. And
didn't like Will, huh?
Matter of fact, the first day we get back, and Will calls me up. He's like, "Man, I'm sick to my stomach." He says, "Man," he goes, "It just shot my nerves, And to have a gun pulled on you and right there at your temple, and like we've been shot at out in the field. We've had guns pulled on us, but I mean, this guy here was clearly unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so horrible. And it wasn't much longer after that this man passed away, and somebody in his family acquired the property. Of course, now we tried to buy it, and we found out that it was set up that the property could only be inherited by his people and his family. And they went ahead and signed the lease with the deer hunter, which is crazy because we would have went double or triple what the deer hunter did, just to have that property.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't to be.
And so you had the tin on that property, and that's where you found the snake?
Yes. As a matter of fact, it was what had happened was this, and it's really easy to do. Will and I had gotten into a bit of a rut. We go down there every week, and we're flipping the prairie kings, and we're got really good at finding corn snakes and the copperheads and the black kings and all this. But we're going to a lot of the same places, same locations. And I told Will, so we have got to make something happen, and he agreed. So we're riding down this one little gravel road, and there's certain things. I'm sure if you guys search for snakes, you're aware of these things. But if you see some type of flora that is like exotic, doesn't belong there, you think there's probably a house there at some point in time. If you see like maybe a specimen tree, a large tree that maybe somebody had like in their yard, In this instance, you could see that at some point in the not too distant past, it had been clear cut. It had grown back with scrub oak and pine trees. So we parked, we walked back, and lo and behold, there was a cabin back there with a great big giant tree smashed down to the roof, and there was piles and piles of roofing tin, aluminum siding, and boards. So we're like, okay, like I don't see any kind of a sign saying posted. I don't know who owns it, but let's roll the bones here, man. Like, let's lay this stuff out. And we did. And it really became the best snake hunting site that we ever had. It was crazy how good it was. And each and every single time we went there, you just look forward to it. And it was so painful when we lost it. But that's where that snake was. And looking back, and it's like the information's out there as far as in the cave region. There's this goes all the way back to when they made Mammoth Cave National Park back in the mid 1930s. And they had the CDC people out there making roads, and they was bringing specimens to the herpetologists like Jay Savage and Chenoweth and Hibbard and all these different people. And at one time, I guess the topography was quite a bit different, or at least as far as with the formation of Mammoth Cave National Park, Meridian National Park, there's a suppression of fire, closed canopy, and what was once suitable habitat for pine snakes was no longer existed. So it's pretty much like our belief that pine snakes probably do not even occur in the park anymore, and what ones do occur are likely in these fringe habitats right outside. That's our philosophy, and that's also shared by the state herpetologist. He believes the same thing. He's been surveying the park now for probably close to about 20 years, and we helped with that for quite a while too. And lots of neat stuff found there, but no pine snakes in the park.
Wow,
man!
Real quick before we move past the individual on the property, I'm guessing it wasn't him, but it reminded me of a picture in your book of a sign on someone's property that said like something along the lines of like no trespassing.
That was the property.
It was that one. It says no trespassing except Phil and Will. It's what's painted on it.
Many posted Camrys. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, it's amazing. The guy really warmed up to us. He was really friendly. We gave him a Herp Society T-shirt, and he'd rock that walking around town and stuff. And then it was like somebody flipped a switch, and he no longer knew who we were.
Now, I have a theory that that's a Kentucky thing, because I go all over the place, rummaging, looking for crayfish mostly, but herps too. And the absolute most insane, like, what the hell is happening moment of my career was and this will mean something to you, Pike County, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Which I've had many people from Kentucky tell me there's Kentucky, then there's Pike County, like it's a separate entity.
We said Harlan, and Harlan's
we spent a lot of time there in Harlan County, Bell County, Letcher County, and the people are definitely a breed apart. They're there's some really good people, but they seem to be in general distrustful of outside.
Yes.
As soon as they trust you, you're the best. You're best. Like, we had a guy, we were doing a site, and it was on a road, like a public road. This was not hopping a fence. We were in a creek. And I, of course, this is one of the trips I had Colin with me, my son. And at the time, Colin was 4 or 5 years old. Like, he was little. And we were in the creek, and this guy thought he owned the road and came flying down the road in a little Ranger pickup, and like Dukes of Hazzard crap, like drifting. And the students I'm with are like, what the hell's going on? I'm standing there holding a clipboard, and he slams on the brakes, skids out, hops out of the car before it's done moving, fell down, got up, and he's just waving the pistol. And I was like, oh God, this is when we die. And my freaking kid is there. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, you all got to get out of here right now. He literally said, or you're going to choose who dies first. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, Guy, I called him Guy, which was bad. Like, my son is right here, man. He's like 4. Could we maybe just put the pistol away? And he looked at me and was deeply offended that I called him Guy, and I didn't know that his name was Josh. I will forever know his name is Josh for the rest of the time. and then I was like, I'm not doing anything, man. And then he gave me this story about the sheriff's running drugs, and he's the only person that's ever on this road. And you're down here, and you're obviously working for him. And so I had to talk him down.
Mm-hmm.
But then, well, you're not that bad. And then Josh is like, well, come back to the house. And I'm like, hell no.
I'll tell you what, I have gone on a number of occasions from having a shotgun in my face to like 30 minutes later, I'm sitting down at a kitchen table, drinking lemonade and having fried chicken. And a lot of it is like,
Josh left and came back with a pie.
Yeah. A lot of it's like,
hell, you had a pistol, now you got a pie? Like, so,
yeah, I always believe in looking a man in his eye, offer my hand out. And the other thing is, like, as quickly as you can, get to talking about snakes.
Yep.
Because all of a sudden,
that's what I talk about. Everybody loves crawdads.
So. Oh yeah. The other thing is this: down in that area, down in I think it was Little Black Mountain, down there in Harlan County. Me and Will went down one time with a couple of other guys, Herb Society guys, and there's guys literally out there. It's like midday. They're drinking moonshine out of a jar, and I saw some tin down in the barn. I want to go check it, right? So I walk up there, and I didn't verse these guys on what you do and what you don't do. So things are going well. I'm like, hey, fellas, how y'all doing there? You know, against kind of talk like that. And you never, ever, ever want to tell anybody down there you're from Louisville. So the guy's like, where y'all from? And I was like, I'm from Valley because I live in Valley Station in Louisville, right? And he's like, where's he from? Guy said, oh, he's from Valley. He's like, all right. So he's, what y'all doing? I said, I'm looking for snakes. And so he's like, he goes, y'all with the church? And I'm like, no, man. I said, we're friends of the church, you know. And this other fella with the Herp Society goes, well, we're trying to do herpetological surveys. And this guy's like, who the hell are you? And I was like, man, I said, listen, I said, this guy was a hitchhiker. I said, I don't know who the hell he is. I think he's raising a box of frogs, man. I said, we just picked him up. I said, I think the sun was getting to him. I said, no, we're just looking for some rattlers, you know. So he's like, oh, come on back, fellas, you know. But, you know, I guess the point being is situational awareness and how you handle those conversations with these people. And honestly, I tell you what, I think that I think we became very, very good at it. When you can when you can disarm somebody who's ready to like shoot you, because the thing is, people are there, they're still in copper, they're like they're cooking meth.
These aren't very wealthy areas. I mean, so there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of things that. And you know, to your point, like when the word herpetological, and Zach, you with your clipboard, you're too official back there. No, they don't like you're federals. You know, is that So that's the last thing you want. You know, when you're in that backcountry.
Now that said, I will say this to give credit where credit's due, and I believe this most firmly is there are a lot of private property owners who actually are good old country people, but they also have a very conservation-minded way that they do not kill snakes, and they allowed us to this day. I still serve on a lot of these properties, so you know it's the good and the bad. You know, you get the mix. When it comes down to it, but and the other thing is this: like we literally at the time we hung out with the Amish. Amish let us on their property. The Catholic Church down at Gethsemane, they let us go on their property. There was even people down there in the Cumberland Mountains who were like with the church who wanted to go out with us, you know. So, I mean, we tried just to be friendly to everybody and try to be non-intimidating and friendly, and just it usually works out pretty well. There's been very, very few times when I wanted to get on the property and I couldn't. I could almost always talk my way into it. There's been a few times, but not very often. So, but yeah, I think the thing is, it's a different culture, and and people don't know exactly why you're there, and like I said, the quicker you can throw snakes out there, and a lot of times they're like, well, I'll tell you what, yeah, you can look for snakes, but you got to take them with you, and you're like, well, okay, you will, but you don't. So I remember one time down in Hart County, Kentucky, there was a guy in a trailer on the junkyard, and we asked if we could hunt for snakes, and he's like, yeah, he goes, I ain't seen a snake probably in 10 years, but yeah, you can look around. It's like, all right. So we looked around, we found a few snakes, found a bunch of lizards, and there was a board literally right there where the steps of his trailer was. Lifted it up, there was like 4 gravid female copperheads right there. And the guy says, did you find any snakes? I said, no, man, you're right. There's no snakes here. You know? I mean, I wasn't going to tell the man there's 4 snakes to kill right here, you know.
Now, am I wrong in that there were some individuals, and forgive me because it's funny, Phil, this should tell you something. It has been years since I read your book, but so much is coming back to me about it because it was, again, I like the story. I like the, follow along, but weren't there several that actually wanted kind of a recap from you on what all you were finding, wanting to know what species were there? And
absolutely.
that's awesome to me.
I still frequent a number of those properties, and also, of course, I'm like I have like a permit from the state. I'm a agent of state for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, so I go on a lot of the wildlife management area properties. At times, I go like to national wildlife refuges and just different places like that. So what I do, the places I go to routinely, plus private properties, what I'll do is during the winter months, when I have more time, I'll put together like Word documents and reports. And a lot of people are really interested in that. So every year I go ahead, I put together these, all this information. I'll insert some photographs and all the different data, a species profile. And I will say this, even though I'm a snake guy, as was Will, at the same time, we would also record every lizard, turtle, salamander, frog also. I'm familiar with all the frog calls, and I could identify, all the herps basically. So when I send my reports to KDFWR, it's not just snakes, but everybody knows that's what I'm mainly into. So, I try to incorporate natural history observations and just any kind of data that I think may be relevant. I've got like literally, probably, I hate to think how many hundreds of pages of information I've collected over the years. And at some point I hope to put pen to paper and, I guess now that I'm retired officially, at some point in time, I'm even considering doing a Snakes of Kentucky book. So
that would be cool.
That would be great. Yeah.
So I'd like to do that. And in fact, I'm probably going to kick that off probably this winter and try to start on something like that. I mean, I've at this point, I've seen all the species in the state. I got a lot of information. So I think it'd be something I would enjoy doing. And I think somebody who has an interest in that would also like it as well.
So since we're on the subject of books, you and Will have two, right? Like volume 1, volume 2?
Yeah, it's a snake hunting guide, tools, methods, and techniques for finding snakes in the wild.
Yeah, and I want you to know that we just put in our first drift fence down in Florida at the Orion Center for Indigo Conservation. They have a nice little pine flatwoods property, and I had to set up a drift fence. And we also have a drift fence at our study site in Iowa for western and eastern hognose snakes. But I said to some field herpetologists, well, where do I go to like get the how-to on that? And 3 different people refer me to your books. So there you go.
Yeah, I guess with us, if anybody who has like looked deeply into trying to study pine snakes, that is one of the preferred methods is these silt fences with these box traps. And in fact, that's what the Touchstone Energy guys was doing in the eastern population in the Cumberland Plateau. And they actually had people early on who was fabricating these fences for us. They was donating materials, silt fencing and all that. And really, really effective at getting snakes, hognose snakes for one. Yeah, lots and lots of hognose. But that seems to be one of the preferred methods for pine snakes. But we didn't find one in one of our traps, but we sure tried.
Well, what inspired you to do the book?
Oh, okay. The book. It's there was a guy. I think he had a company called L&M Digital, and he contacted me and he's like, "Man, I love seeing your post on Field Herp Forum." He's like, I'm a publisher. I got a new company. And at that point, he had done a book on gray band king snakes and also on the Zonata. And he's like, man, he goes, would you be interested in doing a book, right? So I'm like, I hadn't thought about it, So I got with Will, and it was wintertime. The timing was right. So we're like, sure, man. Like, what would you like for us to do? So we put this book together. Well, unfortunately, things didn't go well with this company. And he was unable to pull together the capital. I think his books had a limited audience, the Zonata book and the Alterna. And I think sales peaked and then they kind of went down. So we're sitting there. We have a book put together. And so we got to thinking, like, what can we do with this? So we contacted Bob Ashley with Eco, and we threw it out there to Bob. And Bob's like, "Hey guys," he goes, "I don't think anybody would really like a book like this." He goes, "But I like it." So he's like, "I'll go ahead and do it." So we're like, "Okay," but it ended up people did like it, and it's been pretty successful. It's seriously outdated at this point because so much more has happened, I guess, in the time from when that book came out. So we'd even talked about, would we want to do a third edition? Some people even suggested maybe incorporating like a narrative section. Like I keep all these very meticulous notes. I can look back at all these different things that happened in the field over time. And I could come up with some pretty good stories, actually, So, but it's like my main interest is more like the snakes themselves. So who knows? I mean, and I haven't talked with anybody like with Eco, and I'm sure Will hasn't either. So I don't even know if we'll ever have like a third edition or anything like that at all. So, but it was fun doing it. But that was the backstory on it.
Oh wow, cool!
That's
I have
awesome.
them both here in this office somewhere, over in that shelf there. So bringing it back to the Kentucky Pines. So you find the female first, then you get your hands on the male. I want to hear the whole breeding them.
Oh, okay.
Did you and Will think this was going to be easy? Did you think it was going to be hard? Did you brumate them? Did you not brumate them? Just kind of walk us through the first breeding. Did you keep the male? The male was the second snake for a little while before you bred him, or was it like first season? Let's go.
He was too small the first season. What basically happened? There was another snake involved there as well.
Okay.
We had the female from 2002 at the Louisville Zoo. There was also an interest in northern pine snakes. And so one of Will's coworkers, who I think was the lead keeper at the time, he had an interest in these as well. So they made him like the official lead on the Louisville Zoo Pine Snake Project. So essentially what that meant is anybody that found a pine snake in West Kentucky was going to contact the zoo, and this guy would take possession of it. So that's exactly what happened. Sure enough, one was found in Lyon County, and Will's coworker went down, got the snake, and we're like, "Hey, we got this female. This snake was a male. Like, maybe we should put these snakes together." So I guess Will and his coworker came to terms, and so we put them together for one breeding. It produced I think it was 2.3, and so Will took a pair, his coworker took a pair, and I had the odd female. So we kind of just went ahead and raised them up. Meanwhile, I guess the following years when we found the male in Edmonson County. Now, he was too small to breed at that point. He was still like, he was still like maybe 2 years out because we found him in June. So he had to have a little bit of growing to get up to size. So the first reproductive effort actually was between a Lyon County, Western Kentucky snake, and a Callaway County. So we had that genetic material. So I raised that female up, which was Lyon County, Callaway County, bred her to the Edmonson County male. So we had subsequent reproductive outputs that incorporated the genes from the Lyon Callaway snake, and also we bred the Callaway snake herself to the Edmonson County snake, which is like, for instance, what Craig has.
Yeah.
And a good number of them out there are. So that's the backstory. There's 3 snakes involved right now. Of course, the end game has always been to hopefully try to bring in some more genetic material. It just has not happened yet. So that's where it's at the moment, I guess.
Wow.
So to make sure that I'm up on it. So at the moment, are all of the Kentucky pines that are in the hobby at the moment from those 3 individuals, or have there been any others brought in?
No, I would say if I had to bet my life savings on it, I'd say the only ones in captivity and herpetoculture are from those 3 snakes. I know of nobody else out there. So I do believe that with some certainty for sure.
And what was the ratio for sex in the counties that they came from again for those 3 founders?
The Edmonson County snake was a male, the Lyon County was a male, and the Callaway was a female. Yeah, wow. There was another snake from Trigg County that Will's coworker came into possession of, but they never was able to come to terms as far as any kind of a breeding loan. So unfortunately, we was not able to bring in that genetic material. But
Gotcha.
nonetheless,
That's
so
sad.
yeah. So I'm still hoping. I got contacts out there. I mentioned the one from May 2024 that a friend of mine had forwarded the photograph of. And if something was to turn up out there, then that'd be really nice to infuse more genes into the project. But right now, that is literally what we have to work with.
And then when you get babies and you're rearing a holdback, what is your feed? How often do you feed them, and what do you feed them?
Oh, okay, sure. Some people have concerns of feeding baby pine snakes on mice. They might become imprinted. Typically, what I would do is I would feed like maybe rat pinkies and rat pups and all that, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Their appetites are so good. I would usually go like every 5 days, and with a suitable sized meal. They grow rapidly. I've never had one refuse food. I do think there's a chance if you went too fast with it and too large of meals, you could go into the regurgitation syndrome that the Pitchrophus sometimes has, and that can be devastating. It's very difficult to come back from that. So I do like to start off cautiously. I guess I should also preface this by saying that my interest in Kentucky herpetology and wanting to get these established, I have never profited off these animals at all. I know they're out there at herpetoculture, but I've never made a penny off of them. And that's something I never wanted to do to begin with. To me, it'd be a conflict of interest. To me, it's a labor of love. To me, I enjoy these snakes. I'm glad that I put them in some good hands out there. And at the same time, I've always had this vision of a reintroduction program. And so finally, things are starting to move forward on that slowly, but it's starting to move. So I'm happy about that. And that was always my end game, was to try. I could see a time when these snakes had their populations bolstered by captive bred stock, much like what goes on in South Alabama with indigos and things like that. So that's what I would really like to see. I'd like that to be my legacy, something I could give back. And fortunately, a lot of people are also interested in this as far as hobbyists. So, which pleases me. I think that's great.
Very
now
cool.
I'm curious because, as we've talked about individuals possibly finding these in the wild and collecting them. So are these not protected in Kentucky?
They are protected in the sense that you are unable to sell, barter, trade any wild-caught snake. You could have a possession of up to 5, I believe it is. Of course, nobody's ever going to find 5 of these. So
that amazes me that because so basically they're just falling under the typical Kentucky law.
They are,
with natives, because I'm very familiar with that. I just figured that due to their scarcity, that they would be more state protected, or state endangered, or whatever label they put on it. I'm really surprised that there's not a stronger conservation effort by the state on these.
Well, I tell you, it's interesting you mentioned it because early on, that's what I did. I threw it out there like, hey, man, would the state be interested in doing something? And my thing was like not necessarily, the protection, because I can't protect anything. My interest was like, what if we was to propagate these in captivity, with having the goal in mind of reintroducing these into the wild. And I guess for a number of years, it was kind of like, I think it's one thing if you're talking about river otters or if you're talking about elk or whatever, people are more accommodating if it's got fur or feathers. But if it's a snake, people are not as likely to want to buy into it. So it took a long time. I kept knocking on that door, and finally here several years ago, I guess initially they had what was known as the Conservation Wildlife
State Wildlife Action Plan.
Yeah, it's like the Comprehensive Wildlife Conservation Strategy is what it was. Now it's the Strategic State, I guess, action plan. So they're trying to get funds appropriated from Congress and all this kind of stuff. So things are in flux right now. But the latest proposals that they had was to actually try to work towards having a reintroduction program. And that's between Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Louisville Zoo, and the Kentucky Herpetological Society. And I guess my role would be with the Kentucky Herpetological Society. I don't know exactly where it's all going to go. I did talk with our state herpetologist not long ago, and what they was trying to do, and in fact, I think there's even going to incorporate some of the eDNA technology, and they're trying to see possibly where there might be existing populations. They've been sampling, they've been doing funnel traps, things like that, and I think they focused like so far, like in I think in Trigg County, Lyon County, maybe in West Kentucky, and I think they're going to move to Callaway. And thus far, they haven't found any. So they're things are moving, but it's been moving slow. The zoo, last I talked to Will about it was back in April, and there'd been no real movement out there either. So, and on my end, of course, I'm just kind of watching and waiting. So I'm hoping that, these things, there's a lot of moving parts, and, there's red tape and bureaucracy, and things oftentimes move slow. So I'm trying to be patient, but I'm hoping at some point in time that it does move forward.
It can be hard to be patient as a conservation person.
Yeah. And what I would like to do myself is I'm pretty good at keeping snakes and breeding these snakes. I did very well with these animals. And what I'd like to do is I would like to reproduce these animals and hand the clutch of babies off to whether it be the Louisville Zoo or the Department of Fish and Wildlife or somebody, but they can maybe head start them for like a year or so and then release them into a secure, appropriate habitat. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Absolutely. Wow.
All right. So with your animals, you're feeding them every 5 days. What is a decent? So when you get like Craig Trumbauer is putting this Kentucky pine on the cover of the Pitch Office book, which is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, that was actually hatched here at my house.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great.
And that is an 8-foot monster. Do you think? I run into this with the crayfish all the time because we're doing head starting with the crayfish and we're releasing them, and it's so much more complicated when you involve the conservation genetics, all that kind of jazz. But we get, we have a hatchery that can take a baby crawdad to a 6-inch monster in 6 months. And then the $1 million question on the science side became, well, is this really what they are in nature? Like, are they really like these things are growing so quickly and they're is it like we're releasing Godzilla into the stream, or is this what? So like when you've got an 8-foot Kentucky pine, do you think in nature these guys are getting to 8 feet, or did you see kind of a general size between the preserved animals and the animals that have been recently captured? Like, is that an artificial part of captivity, or is that really, you think, what's going on?
Well, here's my take. When I say every 5 days, I'm talking like with hatchlings.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in putting snakes down for overwintering until they're like reaching maturity. I like to go ahead and get that growth on them. I'll leave babies up. And but as adults, I'm more inclined to feed like maybe every 7 days.
Okay.
And my adult pines, I'll feed them like a medium rat to a large rat. But yeah, I'll tell you what, I do believe these snakes are certainly capable of achieving that size in the wild. The ones that I have heard about, people talk in the cave region and who had told me about the ones that they had seen, it's like they talk about these animals being huge. One that was the roadkill in 2013, I had photographs of that. And it's a 7-foot snake easy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so these are big animals. Yeah. In fact, a state herpetologist, he says that, in his mind, it's likely the largest snake in the state, which says a lot because, of course, the rat snakes get pretty big and the timber rattlesnakes have a lot of biomass there,
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I think that, just like anything else, it's like very, very large size class animals become scarce because of, you've got attrition going from one year to the next. Will and I, that's one of the things that we had an opportunity to do. In fact, it was kind of fun, was the zoo vet staff there was able to anesthetize snakes for us. And, we just sitting there, we see all these really big specimens of snakes. So like with the prairie king snake and also with the black king snake, we brought very large animals in, had the zoo vets anesthetize them, get an accurate measurement, get it published as a new record size snake. So these snakes, they exist. And it's like to this day, a lot of the rattlesnakes that I find are really, really large. And places I go to are like miles away from people and roads. And, so it's like the biggest predators, unfortunately, are human beings that kill animals when they see them. And of course, a lot of these large pond snakes are roadkills. So if they're in a situation where they're not being ran over or killed by a human, they get the opportunity to get very large. So yeah, I think that these snakes can very easily naturally get that big if given the opportunity.
What do you think they're eating? Is there anything special? Because I know they're rodentivores, so they're eating small. But are they segueing? Are they partitioning the resources to where they're hopping over to rabbits and then
yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah,
here in Kentucky, we don't have geomies, so there's no pocket goers. So we got microtus and parabiscus, and we got all these different rodents. But yeah, they had to be eating something more than that. So I would say that almost certainly ground nesting birds, small to mid-sized rabbits, probably. That would be my guess. Probably wood rats, maybe cotton rats, and some of those other larger rodents. But yeah, absolutely. But that is something interesting. It's like when you look at Kentucky pine snakes in a contextual sense, you can see where whereas some places have like these classic like pine barren habitats or sand hills, sand prairies, Kentucky doesn't have as much of that. In fact, where we found the Edmonson County snake, it was very hard pan soil, certainly not friable. I don't hammer no stakes to the ground, but I tell you, it was a beast of a day, man. So I think that I don't think that historically like pine snakes were ever abundant in Kentucky. I think it was more along the edges. But that being said, I think that clearly, I think to this day there's good variety of prey animals out there, and I'm sure opportunistically they would feed on squirrels and chipmunks as well.
I was thinking squirrels. That seems to be a big one. I think that's one of the reasons that like our rat snakes get so big, in this area too, is they move to squirrels, at some point.
Yeah, I think that the pine snakes, they're probably living in these, aside from pine thickets, you're also seeing oak and hickory forest with a nut mast crop, and you're going to see squirrels. So yeah, I think that, and I'll tell you, it's kind of funny, this, the larger snake, the big Edmonson County male, when I still had them, I had like a little bit of fun with it. I told people in the Herp Society, I said, if anybody can find a rat so large, this snake can't eat it, that I'll give them $20. And so these guys are bringing in like triple X jumbo, shoot feet like a Burmese python, and he'd get them down. So capable of huge mills. Yeah.
Wow.
So definitely able to take rabbits. I mean, that's no doubt.
All right. One final thought. So I distinctly remember at some point on social media, somebody had posted a Kentucky pine, and I'm certain you've seen the picture because you've seen them all. And I was doing the scrolling thing, and I scrolled past it, and this is like resonated with me. And I thought, damn, they found the Louisiana pine snake. And then I scrolled down and was like, oh, it's a Kentucky pine. It was just kind of that, they call it thin slicing, where you do like a quick ID, but your lizard brain takes over.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've looked at them and thought, okay, so you go to Western Kentucky, you go to the Mississippi, you follow the Mississippi down, and you're basically down there in Ruthven, Louisiana pine land. It is. Do you see any kind of convergence with Ruthven when you look at these guys? I'm not saying they're Louisiana pine snakes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying there might be some selection pressure in the interior part of North America that makes these kind of ground diurnal pits this yellow color. Because if you go a little bit west, you pick up, Aphanis and Sei and desert, and they're all that color. So I've just
I've had a lot of people notice the similarities that superficially. Of course, there's things like the dorsal blotch count is widely divergent from one to the other. But gosh, I tell you what, it's hard to say. Like for instance, if you're looking at the habitats, and is there anything that would specifically give like an advantage to select for particular characteristics? If there is, I haven't picked up on it. I guess people talk about convergent, evolution and different things. To me, it's you could it's a bit of supposition. You could maybe theorize that might be what's going on, and maybe that it is, but I think it's very difficult to definitively say that is the case.
Yeah.
But
there is some, to think about.
Yeah, there is some superficial resemblance to Ruthven for sure. One thing I would like to do, and I tell you, this goes back quite a while. I talked with Bob Zappalordi quite a bit. I need to ask him about this because there was a William Grogan, and I think it was Harry Green, and Bob. They were actually doing some sort of analysis with pine snakes, and I was really interested. We went ahead and gave some shed skins towards this, and but I'm kind of curious if there's what differences there might be between the coastal populations of northern pines and the interior populations. Some of these snakes, if you kind of dig around a little bit, you can see some North Georgia pine snakes that have also a yellowish look to them.
Yep.
The Tennessee Valley population in Kentucky, it extends down through western Tennessee and also into northern Alabama. Then you have a central Tennessee population as well. So you have these little isolates going on, but that's a larger grouping of population there. So I kind of wonder about that. I would wonder, like, if somebody was to do a very comprehensive comparing and contrasting of genetic material and all the physical characteristics, what they might come up with. In fact, he was going to do that, and I didn't hear anything about it. And one of Harry Green's students, she came in and did a presentation for our Herb Society. A real nice young lady, and I asked her, like, hey, could you find out what the latest is? And somehow it's when the rhinovirus got really big and all the resources started going towards that. So that particular project apparently got shelved or scrapped or something, and it never came to fruition. And that was way back in probably 2006 or 7 or so. But I'd love to see somebody pick that back up, and maybe bring in some, do some kind of analysis. Because and then also, at the same time, to your point, bring in Ruthven and see where Ruthven falls into it. I've heard some people say, and I'm out of the loop on this, but I've heard some people say that Ruthven shared more genetic material with Sayai than it did with Melanoleucus, so which is very interesting. And I've had people say, well, these West Kentucky pine snakes, are they, is there some sort of genetic flow between them historically and some of the bull snakes, like from Illinois, for instance, or Missouri? And, to me, outwardly, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't think so. But, I guess it'd be kind of neat to see what science would come up with and to delve into it really deep.
That's why I love the snake so much, because when you have one, there's the story behind it. For a natural history nerd, it doesn't get any better than this, because it's like a yellow freaking pine snake, and everybody thinks they're white, and this guy's yellow, and he's probably yellow because of where he lives, but we don't have any idea why they're actually yellow. So they're just fantastic for people that like to think about the animals that they have. Like, that's what I find I'm doing. And the two females that are at school, I always say that I purchased them. They weren't cheap, but I got them, and then I kind of donated them to the animal collection. And I gave people a very strict feeding regime, and they kind of got treated like they were adult snakes. So instead of getting that every 5, they were getting one like every 6 to 10. And so I joke to everybody that I have the smallest Kentucky pine snakes on earth, because mine are like whopping 4.5, 5 foot long, and they're 5 years old. But the other thing is, with them getting so huge, they can also be like the centerpiece of your collection. So I just think they've got like the whole, for North American colubrid, they're everything as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Every time I look at one, I just feel kind of humble, and just so grateful that was able to happen. And also, I tell you, it makes me so pleased that there's so many people out there that appreciate them. I'm glad that they're established in herpetoculture. That's awesome. Some of the guys that I respect the most in the hobby are doing great with them. Along with Craig, you got Tanny Organza, and I mean, just really good people out there working with these animals. And so, I guess like going back into that, there for many years, Will and I was getting grant money from the department, and we was like contributing data, and we never wanted there to be a conflict of interest. And even though the grant money is no longer there, and Will and I are no longer taking the field together, it's like my interest has never been, I guess, like some of these myself. But I'm glad people are. Does that make sense? In fact, I went to see some of my friends at the Reptile Expo in 2021 down at Daytona. And it was so neat to look on a table and seeing those snakes there, pretty hefty price tag, but that makes me happy because I'm glad to see them out there. I'm glad to see people appreciate them for what they are. And even if I'm not profiting from it, I am spiritually, so to speak, you know.
Well, let me ask you, so what's the future of the Kentucky pine? You know, where do you see it going from here? What I know you'd mentioned, like, you would love to see some more scientific study on it, and
Yes.
you know, comparisons there. But so where does it go from here?
Well, I'm going to keep trying to push forward. I know it's part of the strategic, wildlife action plan for the state. I also know that they're looking to see if they can get funds appropriated from Congress to kind of push it forward. It hasn't moved a whole lot. The last I talked to my friend at the department was pretty much the information that what they had was their guy out there was trying to do funnel trapping and trying to locate populations, trying to come up with places that might be maybe historical, where populations have been extirpated for potential release sites, but it hasn't really moved forward from that. The last I talked with Will out at the zoo, he's pretty much in the same boat. The zoo has not moved forward as of, I think it was April when I talked with Will last about it. I need to contact him, I guess, to see if there's anything else going on. But as expected, things move slow. There's, like I say, moving parts, and there's always red tape. It's my fervent desire that this continues to move forward. At this point, we're not really ready we don't have any snakes to release anyhow. Yeah. So I took a hiatus from keeping them for a while, but when I found out that there's finally the green light was kind of given to give consideration for a reintroduction program, I'm like, I need to get back into this and see what I can do to help. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm hoping to be a part of this and to help move it forward. And I don't know exactly where it's going to end up at or when, but that's my hope, is that we just keep kind of plodding forward, and in the not too distant future, maybe be in a position to actually see this come into a reality.
Very cool. All right, my friend. This was fantastic. This was everything good. I hoped it could be.
Yes. This is, Zac always tells me, he knows that I love our story episodes, that to me, because the history and getting to envision that excitement and, that find and everything that's happened now because of them, those finds. And, this is definitely, we appreciate you coming on, Phil. It's been great.
Yeah. And on that token, I want to do one final thing, because you mentioned how they found it, they took it to Murray State, they released it, then you and Will went, and then you found it.
Yes.
But we've all lost a snake in our house. And it's gone and lived in the house for like 4 freaking months without anybody seeing it. The fact that the guy took it back to the field, let it go, and you walked out into nature and found the snake. Could you just, for the final piece of this, talk about that? Like, I'm sorry, but there had to have been a part of you where it wasn't just, and we found it. But you're like, holy hell, just like, how did that all go down?
Almost like divine intervention, like just something that had to happen, you look at it, and at the same token, it's like the closest we came knowingly was 2019. We found a shed skin of an animal in Trigg County, Kentucky. That's as close as we come since then. But the more time and distance from that find, the more special it kind of becomes. And but it's like that was the last thing we thought would ever happen, is this to go back to the place where that animal had been released and to find it. But sure enough, it was. And I think really the snake, and you can see by the photograph, it was a little bit thin. And I think that she was out there trying to catch some early morning sun. And
was she undercover? Like what
she was out in the open. Yeah, she
really?
was out in the open. Yeah, it was like maybe 9:30 in the morning. And it was like, I want to say maybe September 15th, 16th, something like that, around that time frame. And we got to this open rocky area, and we was canvassing the area, and which was a really good habitat, but that's the last thing we expected, was to actually find that snake. But these snakes, just like when they utilize artificial cover, a lot of times it's to help serve a biological need,
Yeah.
whether it's gestating young or digesting a meal, maybe trying to facilitate ecdysis or just what the case might be, And I think this snake, that she was like utilizing these rocks that had been warmed by the early morning sun. And she was probably getting ready to maybe go out and look for some food. That's what I speculate.
Did you or Phil see her first?
Will seen her first.
Okay.
Yep. Will seen her
And what
first.
did he do? Like, there she is? Or
he screamed.
I'm about to say, did he scream? Yeah.
Yeah. We was all like, real close, relatively close to each other, but we kind of fan it out. And, and that was the thing. It's like, you're like, man, that just happened. That happened like too easy almost, But sure enough, it's like, and that's the hard thing. It's like when you're trying to find an animal that lives 4.5 hours away, and then a lot of times we would like schedule vacation time and, you're hoping that you're going to have good weather, but there's no guarantee. A lot of times you have vacation time and it's going to be pouring down rain or something.
Right.
So sometimes, you wouldn't actually have any kind of, the kind of conditions that you'd hope to have. But yeah, we went back to that area and we spent so much time there. Hoping that another one would turn up, and they do occasionally out there, particularly in the Western Kentucky population.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess I still to this day I frequently go to the Mammoth Cave region, and I still find a lot of snakes down there. Still have a lot of contacts on private properties, and I know I'm still in the game. But I haven't found another one. I still find we have a relic population of corn snakes down there, which is kind of cool. If you ever look at the range map with corn snakes, we have a handful of counties that live in small sections of these counties. And, I go down and I could find them fairly reliably, as well as the other, the timber rattlesnakes, the copperheads, the prairie kings, the black kings, and everything else. Hoping that one day I'm going to be down there, I'm going to find a pine snake, and maybe I will. But thus far, that has not happened.
Well, we certainly hope it does.
Yeah, rooting for you, big time.
Yeah.
Well, on a tactical level, it'd be nice to have some more genetic material. You guys are fully aware of that.
Yep.
And we do not want to outcross it, or I don't want to outcross it. I guess that's for sure. And I think I speak for everybody. We probably pretty much want to maintain the genetic integrity of this locale. So that's what I'd like to see, is to bring in more Kentucky animals and not outcross it with with a Jersey snake, for instance.
Yeah,
there we go.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you want them to, but if people want to talk to you more about Kentucky pines or herping or anything like that, how can people reach out to you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm on Facebook. Believe it or not, I get there's not a week goes by that I don't get 2 or 3 people going, "Hey, Phil, man, can I come to Kentucky and go out and look for snakes with you?" And sometimes I do. But other times, logistically, it doesn't really work out. But I'm always now that I'm retired, I have more time to talk snakes, and I don't mind talking snakes at all, especially if it's something that I have an interest in, like it's herpetology in Kentucky, and pretty much like all of our native snake species, I have a strong interest in. So, I'm always willing to share what I've learned, and I know also there's so much more to learn. That's what motivates me. Every week to grab my camera bag and my hook and jump in the Jeep and head on out.
There you go. Great way to end it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, man. This was great.
Okay.
We as the podcast wanted to at least kind of capture the story, and so now it exists for other people to enjoy, which is pretty cool. Clint, where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook, Clint Bartley. You can also find Metazotics on Facebook, MetazoticsLLC on Instagram. And of course, you can always find everything we have available, from supplies to lots and lots of animals, at Metazotics.com. All
righty. And you can find me at Dr. Crawdad on Instagram, Zac Loughman on Facebook. As always, we've got that little ZooSci major and that ZooSci grad program at West Liberty University. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. You want to get your degree with over 400 snakes, and you literally have to take care of them to get said degree. I'm the guy for you. So please reach out. And this was a fun one. I enjoyed this one. So hope you do too. And be it morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever time of day it is, have a good one. See you later.